Hey everybody, Ryan McCaffrey with IGN here. We're back with part 2 of our Let's Play series on Broken Age with the man himself, the designer, the project lead, Tim Schafer.
Hello.
Hi. So
you paused at a very tense moment here.
We did. We're jumping right in.
Maiden is about to be eaten.
Yeah. If you didn't watch yesterday's part 1, we met Vela and we talked a little bit with Tim about Kickstarter and the documentary process, and we'll keep the conversation going as Tim takes the controls here and attempts to save Vela from Mog Chothra's tentacly grasp.
Mm-hmm. So the interface is a point-and-click interface where you have this cursor that changes state when you're over something hot, by the way, and then you also can go down to this corner. We're doing a new interface now where it actually automatically opens the inventory. And this version, you have the option of 2 dialogue user interface choices. You can drag the item onto another item.
Right.
Or you can do a setting to have just 2 clicks. Which
Perfect.
Works a little bit better for.
That's better for PC.
Players.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can also, in other cases, drag and combine objects together. Not always successfully, but.
So Tim, the documentary makes it seem like a lot of great talent came to you, whether it was Jack Black or Elijah Wood, Peter McConnell doing the score.
Yeah, there was a
was
lot
that
of,
that what happened? Did they?
Well, there was a lot of excitement when we first did the Kickstarter, and remember Jennifer Hale said, "I'll be in it."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Okay." And we're always thinking, like, what can Jennifer do? Because she was so great in Brutal Legend.
Yes.
And
in
apparently some other games.
Yeah, maybe Mass Effect.
Mostly well known as Ophelia, of course. But yeah, and Elijah Wood tweeted about it, which was great. And I had known he was an adventure game fan because of this article, like 15 years ago, he did an Entertainment Weekly where he said Monkey Island was his favorite game, and I stored that away. I was like, oh man, he's an adventure game player, and which was great because he knew how they all worked and he understood the script. And
let's get Vel out of here.
Can I borrow that bottle one more time?
So was it pretty reassuring then, early on in the project, to have all these people coming to you saying, "Hey, I want to be a part of this"? Did it sort of give you a little extra boost that's thinking, oh, okay, all these people are also psyched about me making an adventure game again?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it really was an amazing time when everyone was talking about it, and trying to keep that going for 2 years is a different thing.
Yeah.
You're making me hungry. I'm trying to make Mog Chothra. These girls have it all backwards. Think it's attractive to starve themselves. Want to trade something for a bite of that drumstick?
The music is really going nuts there. You hear that? I
Yeah,
think this is the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra playing this that you saw in the documentary.
Indeed.
They did contact us too. The director,
yeah, there you go,
is the director of the symphony, or the assistant director was a backer. I think it's
I
the
saw that
in
the video. Yeah.
And that was great. It's great to have these backers off hiding in the.
Well, I tweeted you. I offered my services as a voice actor, but clearly you got more talented.
Oh, did you? There were a lot of tweets back then.
That's true.
Can I hear your audition right now for Vela?
For Vela?
Okay, do your Shay.
I might be
How about
miscast. Gee, guys, we might want to try and do something about this spaceship we're stuck on.
Thank you for coming in. That was a really great audition. We will get back to you.
Thank you.
That's good. Yeah, you do have a sultry, calming voice.
Might be better for one of the deeper voice characters. Elijah Wood, he's like never aged. He's still a teenager.
He started young. If you check out YouTube, you can see him in old Paula Abdul videos as like a little kid. Yeah, he started very young. Like the Good Son. Remember the Good Son? Macaulay
Heard
Culkin?
of it? Yeah.
He's the little boy in that. I think he's the Good Son.
Oh.
I think the monster just wanted that drumstick. Was a thing. I think he.
So I don't know if you've been asked this before, but what if you'd only made the original Kickstarter goal, the 400,000? What kind of game would it have been then? Would it even? I mean, you mentioned in part 1 that you'd had the idea for a Vela type story a long time ago. Would it even be Broken Age if this had been a $400,000 game?
I think not. I think it would have been I'm going to spoil a puzzle here.
Up and away. Almost. Get that.
Now I stab the bird to death. It's a very surprising ending to this.
Boy, you've really gone violent as your career has gone on.
Well, it's hard not to think about that when you're carrying a knife around. Dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, what was your original vision for a $400,000 adventure game?
I was imagining something that was similar to Hostmaster and the Conquest of Humor, if you ever saw that kind of free web game that we made in Flash. And I helped write some of the dialogue for that, and it made me kind of remember, like, oh yeah, that's what it's like to come up with a puzzle for an adventure game. You could do that again. And but I think it would have been more about making a documentary, and then just kind of captured like a very short, rushed period, or like because 4 months, that's like, I mean, $400,000 is like, it's not a lot, not a big team for very long.
Right.
So it would have been like 3 people for like 4 months or something, and people would probably never have been upset about anything or had any expectations, or it would have been a lot easier in a lot of ways. But we, once we got overfunded, we just really wanted to do it right and make our own engine from scratch, which is something we wouldn't have done for $400,000.
Yeah, of course.
So we made this brand new engine based on the Moai open source engine, which helps us get on a lot of platforms. It's already running on a lot of platforms.
So what you're telling me is you are now fully equipped to make another Tim Schafer point-and-click adventure game because you have the technology to build it off of.
That is true. We do have the engine. Yeah, and we, like I said,
So you're going to make me another adventure game is what you're telling me.
We basically follow our inspiration. So we do this thing called Amnesia Fortnite. I don't know if you saw that last year.
Yeah, everybody goes off for 2 weeks and into small
groups,
teams and pitches
it's
ideas.
It's a game jam, and we do like a full game in 2 weeks, and that's where Stacking Costume Quest came from. And maybe someone will pitch an adventure game in that. You never know. So here are Marrow. Now this might be a good time to switch. I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah, we can switch anytime. That's the part of the beauty of the game. Now I tend to be a completionist type player. Like I went all through Shay's first part and then came over to her. But yeah, that is cool that if you get stuck on a puzzle, you can just switch back and forth.
Yeah, because a lot of times in adventure games you get stuck in the old days you would get stuck for weeks because you had one game for the whole summer to play, and you just I don't know what to do here, and but then you go for a walk, or you would take a nap, you go to sleep, take a shower, and all of a sudden you come back and you just knew the answer. It's like this weird magical thing.
Yeah, it happens.
Your brain figures out here's
thinking.
And so we wanted to make it that you could stay in the game, but take a break by switching to the other character and give you a chance to solve some puzzles in your sleep, as it were. So this Marrow is one of those places that came from a drawing when the artist did. Peter Chan drew this beautiful picture of clouds with birds with nests in the clouds. That made me think of like the weird properties it would have to walk on the clouds. My intensive physics background, of course, taught me that you can stand on clouds as long as you keep moving. Everyone knows how important motion is towards weight.
Right.
You weigh a lot more if you're standing still, obviously. So that's the way it is in Marrow. We got to watch out for those big holes in the clouds.
Until we get ourselves some cloud shoes.
I have some dialogue in here about why this works and how it's about volume or area, not volume. And I've gotten a lot of people saying, buoyancy is really about volume. And some physics arguments about why this.
Careful.
Here's one of the inhabitants of Marrow named Carl. Her name is Carol, but she's had some letters removed.
Yeah, to make it lighter.
To make it lighter, because she's part of this. She's been kind of absorbed into this. She's being a good sport because her husband is really interested in this cult of lightness, and she's kind of going along, making the best of it, trying to make a living. She's actually doing a lot more work than he's doing.
So, what's your name?
But she's not really as into the cult as her husband Walter is.
Yeah.
It's Carol, with some of the letters removed for reasons that are too stupid to repeat.
And Hammer makes a nice necklace. I don't know why more people don't do
I'll
that.
let you get back to your work.
It's a very it's practical. You've always got it around your neck, and it's also a little intimidating.
Exactly. But she's missing her knife, which is even more intimidating. So you kind of, like adventure games go, you wander around different rooms, and you find various people with different problems. Let's see.
So as the game obviously got a lot bigger after the Kickstarter took off, but as the documentary process has showed, you have to make tough choices along the way to finally get it done, and before you run out of money. How much of this game ended up on the cutting room floor for time or budget reasons?
Yeah, there's definitely a point when the design is done, everyone takes a harder look at the game, and they say, okay, now the design is done, we can see it all. Actually, will take 10 times as long as you said it was going to take. That's often what happens, especially when I do it. So then you're like, okay, what if we only go twice as long and I cut out half the game? Okay, that's what happened on Brutal, and that's what happened on there was a whole half of the map of Brutal Legend that we cut. And looking at it now, it's like so big, I can't imagine that we ever had twice that much game. And there were definitely things in this game that were cut out, but usually when you cut them out, you cut based on a certain logic of like, well, I don't really need that, and it actually it's like editing. It makes things tighter and more.
So puzzles and story bits end up hitting the floor. Or is it?
Well, like sometimes you try and keep the puzzles and just limit the art or animation you have to make around it, or you'll combine characters. Like we did that on Day of the Tentacle. There was a log guy, and there was a guy who was cold and wanted to build a fire, but there was also John Hancock and Benjamin Franklin and stuff. And so we're like, you know what? And we're not going to have all those characters on the screen. We don't want to design them all. Let's just make the log guy John Hancock, and we'll make the fire building guy Franklin. Or no, not Franklin. It was the other guy.
It's been a long
Jefferson.
time since I've played Dot.
So you do that. A lot of things you cut, but you really are just combining a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like the last two levels in Psychonauts, there was going to be a level that was all about a butcher shop, and there was going to be a level that was all about the circus. And so Microsoft wanted us to cut a level from the game, and so we actually let's just combine those two and make it a big circus and meat. And Microsoft also said you should make that level super hard so no one can finish it. I don't know why they said that, but that was what they wanted us to do, and so we tried.
Unfortunately, Microsoft said we don't want to publish this game anymore, which was a bad idea on their part.
Go ahead and bring that up.
I'm sorry.
When we self-published the PC version, we actually made some changes to make Meat Circus a little more manageable.
I finished it.
Just a little more. Yeah, it wasn't really as hard as people said. People are really much better now.
So do you plan for one of your adventure games to be a comedy going into it, or does that just kind of organically happen? Because, this game, Broken Age, has funny moments, but, I wouldn't call it a comedy based on the part one here, whereas something like Day of the Tentacle or Full Throttle are, to me, definitely comedies.
Yeah, Day of the Tentacle was one of those... Oh, should I just Shay? Okay, maybe after we say this. Day of the Tentacle was one of the only ones that was like, look, this is going to be like a Chuck Jones... Warner Brothers cartoon.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna go for that, and it was based on Manic Mansion, which Ron was kind of had a lot of jokes and silly, ridiculous things in it.
Sure.
So Monkey Island was obviously like declared as a comedy too. I don't know if it was I think it was always going to be declared as a comedy, but Full Throttle, you wouldn't really say this is a comedy, but I hope it's funny.
It's hilarious. I think it's the funniest game that you've made.
And there's different levels of writing. There's the high concept, and there's like kind of story, structural scene. There's like each scene, and then there's a level of like the actual words that people say.
Right.
And they can be comedies or not comedies at each of those different levels. So I feel like, it's mostly the high versus the low. So on a high concept level, like Grim Fandango is about death and like regret and loneliness.
Not a comedy, although there are funny parts.
Once you're in it, you're actually solving puzzles with flaming bone beavers, and there's like Glottis, who's this ridiculous character who was and that's the way a lot of these games are, because when you get to writing the actual stuff, writing is really about solving problems, and the easiest way to solve a problem is with humor most of the time. Like when you have to say, okay, out of the problem, the player is throwing pancakes at my character. You should have a funny response, because I don't think a serious response would really make sense.
Would you say that something like, that maybe did Roy Conrad's deadpan delivery of Ben make Full Throttle funnier than you thought it was?
Made a lot of things funny, that's for sure.
When one of the opening scenes of the game where he's trying to get his motorcycle keys back, and he asks the bartender, what might look better on your nose? The bar. Yeah. That's funny.
I think Ben being so serious made things like him unloading a box of bunnies on a minefield a lot more funny, because it's all taken very seriously. Okay, now this is how you switch to Shay. Just
all right,
yes. The inventory bar, and you say, I'm going to go.
Off we
There's
go.
Also settings up here if you want to see settings. Not
change some
very
stuff.
Exciting. Switch to Shay. Now remember, Shay, we left him in that bed, all alone. Now this is really inspired by, I love movies like Silent Running or Moon, or like some parts of 2001 or Sunshine, where there's this huge autonomous ship that's taking care of you. There's something really funny about that. Like, not funny, but like there's something appealing about that, where like this really, I don't know what it is. I'm still examining that, why that's so interesting to me. But so in this case, the thing taking care of you is this mothering face that floats around and really just tries to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And tries to keep Shay so safe that he's just bored out of his mind.
Yeah, we'll go on some adventures here. And actually, we'll do that. Let's do that tomorrow in part 3.
Oh my
We'll
God.
take a quick
Has
break
another
here.
3 hours already flown by?
It's going by quickly. So join us for more with Tim Schafer in Broken Age on IGN tomorrow.